Welcome to Miss Scarlett. Subscribe and don't miss out on Patreon. Have fun! The crisp October air carried the scent of fallen leaves and pumpkin spice as Bob trudged up the creaky steps to his apartment. He fumbled with his keys, his mind already racing with costume ideas for the upcoming Halloween bash. Every year, without fail, he'd stuck to his tried-and-true formula, a plain white sheet with eye holes cut out. It was simple, efficient, and required zero effort, just the way he liked it. Stepping inside, he tossed his keys onto the cluttered coffee table and collapsed onto the worn leather couch. His phone buzzed insistently in his pocket. With a groan, he fished it out and squinted at the screen. "Yo, Bob, got your costume ready for Saturday?" The text from his friend, Mike, glowed accusingly. Bob's thumbs hovered over the keypad, ready to type out his usual response about the ghost costume. But before he could hit send, another message popped up. "Don't you dare say ghost again, man! Time to step up your game!" A wry smile tugged at Bob's lips. He should have known Mike wouldn't let him off the hook so easily this year.
"What did you have in mind?"
He typed back, already regretting the question. The response came almost immediately.
"I dare you to go as Barbie. Full commitment. Makeup, wig, the works."
Bob's eyebrows shot up, a startled laugh escaping him.
"You're joking, right? Dead serious. Unless you're chicken?"
The taunt hung in the air, challenging Bob's pride. He ran a hand through his disheveled hair, mind reeling at the prospect. Him as Barbie? It was absurd, completely out of his comfort zone. And yet, "Fine," he typed back before he could change his mind. Challenge accepted. The moment he hit send, a wave of panic washed over him. What had he just agreed to? Bob spent the next few days in a state of nervous anticipation, alternating between regretting his decision and secretly looking forward to the transformation. As Saturday approached, he found himself standing in the costume shop, surrounded by a sea of pink and glitter. The saleswoman, a petite brunette with a mischievous twinkle in her eye, seemed to sense his discomfort. "First time going all out, huh?" she asked, gesturing to the Barbie section. Bob nodded, feeling a blush creep up his neck. "That obvious?" She laughed, a warm, infectious sound that put him slightly at ease. "Don't worry, hun. By the time I'm done with you, you'll be the belle of the ball." Over the next hour, Bob found himself swept up in a whirlwind of costume pieces, wigs, and accessories. The saleswoman, whose name tag read Lucy, proved to be a godsend, guiding him through the process with patience and humor. "Now for the piece de resistance," Lucy announced, holding up a blonde wig that seemed to shimmer under the fluorescent lights.
"This'll transform you into a true Barbie dreamboat."
Bob eyed the wig skeptically.
"You sure about this?"
"Trust the process, darling." Lucy winked, placing the wig carefully on his head and adjusting it. "There! Take a look!" Turning to face the mirror, Bob's jaw dropped. The person staring back at him was almost unrecognizable. The wig framed his face perfectly, softening his features and adding an unexpected elegance. "Wow," he breathed, unable to tear his eyes away from his reflection. Lucy beamed, clearly proud of her handiwork. "And we haven't even started on the makeup yet!" As Bob left the shop, laden with bags full of pink fabric and glitter, he felt a mix of excitement and trepidation. This was so far out of his usual realm, he might as well have been preparing to walk on the moon. The night of the party arrived faster than Bob anticipated. He stood in front of his bathroom mirror, surrounded by an array of makeup products that would have made a professional beautician proud. YouTube tutorials played on his phone, guiding him through the intricate process of contouring and highlighting. "Blend, blend, blend," the cheerful voice from the video instructed. Bob dutifully followed along, his brow furrowed in concentration as he worked the makeup brush across his cheekbones. an hour, and several failed attempts. Later, Bob stepped back to survey the results. The face looking back at him was a strange mix of familiar and foreign. His features were softened, cheekbones accentuated, and eyes dramatically enhanced. It wasn't perfect by any means, but it was not bad. Next came the dress, a sparkly pink number that hugged curves he didn't even know he had. He struggled with the zipper for a few minutes before finally managing to wrangle it up. The shoes were another challenge entirely. How did women walk in these things? Taking a deep breath, Bob turned to face his full-length mirror. The transformation was complete, and the result was stunning? He hardly recognized himself. Gone was the plain, unassuming Bob. In his place stood a glamorous, confident-looking woman who could have stepped right off a Barbie box. A knock at the door startled him out of his reverie.
Bob, you ready, man? We're gonna be late.
It was Mike, right on time as usual. Bob's heart hammered in his chest. This was it, the moment of truth. "Coming!" he called out, wincing at how high-pitched his voice sounded. Grabbing his purse, because of course Barbie needed a purse, he took one last look in the mirror, straightened his wig, and opened the door. Mike's jaw hit the floor. For a long moment, he just stared, eyes wide with disbelief.
Holy shit!
He finally managed. "Bob?" Bob struck a pose, channeling every ounce of Barbie energy he could muster. "The name's Barbara, darling, but you can call me Barbie." Mike burst into laughter, clapping Bob on the shoulder. "Dude, you actually did it, and you look amazing? Is that weird to say?" Bob felt a grin spread across his face, some of his nervousness melting away. "No, I'll take it. This Barbie life is already going to my head." The drive to the party was an exercise in self-control. Bob found himself constantly fidgeting with his wig, checking his makeup in the rearview mirror, and trying, unsuccessfully, to find a comfortable way to sit in his tight dress. "Stop fussing," Mike chided, though there was amusement in his voice. "You look great. Everyone's gonna lose their minds when they see you." As they pulled up to the party venue, a sprawling Victorian house decked out in full Halloween regalia, Bob felt his nerves return full force. The sidewalk was already crowded with costumed partygoers, their laughter and chatter drifting through the cool night air.
"Ready for your grand entrance, Barbie?"
Mike grinned, killing the engine. Bob took a deep breath, smoothing down his dress. "As ready as I'll ever be." Stepping out of the car was a feat in itself, given the heels and the skin-tight dress. But Bob managed it with only a minor stumble, drawing a few curious glances from nearby guests. As they approached the house, the looks turned into outright stares. Bob could hear whispers and giggles, could feel eyes following his every move. But strangely, instead of making him want to run and hide, it gave him a thrill. He straightened his posture, put on his best Barbie smile, and sashayed up the walkway like he owned it. The moment they stepped through the door, the party seemed to come to a standstill. Conversations halted mid-sentence, heads turned, and jaws dropped. For a heart-stopping moment, Bob thought he'd made a terrible mistake. Then, from somewhere in the crowd, a voice called out, "Oh my God, is that Bob?" The floodgates opened. Suddenly, Bob found himself surrounded by friends and acquaintances, all clamoring to get a closer look at his transformation. "Bob, you look incredible! I can't believe you actually did it! Dude, you make a better Barbie than I do!" The compliments and exclamations washed over him, each one boosting his confidence a little more. He found himself falling into character, striking poses, and tossing his hair, wig, over his shoulder with practiced ease.
"Why, thank you, darlings,"
He simpered in his best Barbie voice. "A girl's gotta look her best, you know?" The laughter and cheers that followed were intoxicating. Bob had never been the center of attention like this before, and he was surprised to find that he kind of loved it. As the night wore on, Bob discovered a newfound freedom in his Barbie persona. He danced without his usual self-consciousness, laughed louder, smiled wider. The heels that had been so troublesome earlier now felt like an extension of himself as he strutted around the party. At one point, he found himself by the punch bowl, catching his breath after a particularly energetic dance number. A guy dressed as Ken, because of course there had to be a Ken sidled up next to him. "Hey there, Barbie," Ken drawled, striking a pose that was probably meant to be suave but came off slightly ridiculous. "Want to go for a ride in my Corvette?" For a split second, Bob faltered, unsure how to respond. Then, channeling every cheesy rom-com he'd ever seen, he batted his eyelashes and replied, "Oh, Ken, you know I can't resist a good joyride, but I left my driver's license in my other purse." The line was so corny, so perfectly Barbie, that they both burst into laughter. Soon they were deep in conversation, trading increasingly absurd Barbie and Ken one-liners, and giggling like schoolchildren. As the night progressed, Bob found himself feeling more and more comfortable in his Barbie skin. He posed for countless photos, participated in an impromptu fashion show, which he won, much to his surprise, and even gave an impassioned speech about the importance of recycling, because saving the environment was totally Barbie's thing, right? It wasn't until the early hours of the morning, as the party began to wind down, that Bob caught a glimpse of himself in a hallway mirror. He paused, taking in the sight of his smudged makeup, slightly askew wig, and rumpled dress. But beyond the physical transformation, there was something else. A spark in his eyes, a confidence set to his shoulders that hadn't been there before. Mike appeared behind him, grinning from ear to ear.
"So, Barbie, how was your night?"
Bob turned to his friend, a matching grin spreading across his face.
"You know what? It was absolutely fantastic. Told you stepping out of your comfort zone would be worth it,"
Mike said, giving him a playful nudge. Bob's eyes widened at the realization. "You planned this, didn't you?" Mike's guilty smile was answer enough. "Maybe a little," he conceded. "But hey, you rose to the challenge and then some. I've never seen you work a room like that." Bob felt a warm buzz of satisfaction. It was true. He'd never felt so comfortable in the spotlight, so willing to embrace a new side of himself. And it was all because of this costume, this temporary identity as Barbie.
"Well, I can't say I'm sorry," Bob laughed, adjusting his wig. "But you might need to help me get out of this dress. I think I'm permanently glued into it at this point."
As they made their way back to the car, the night air a welcome relief from the stuffy party, Bob felt a mix of emotions. There was elation at the success of his costume, but also a twinge of sadness that the night was coming to an end. He had stepped into a new world as Barbie, and now he had to return to his regular life.
"Hey,"
Mike said, sensing his friend's sudden change in mood.
"Don't be a stranger, Barbie. Keep in touch, okay?"
Bob rolled his eyes, a playful smile on his face. "Oh, shut up, and yes, of course, we'll hang out soon. Maybe I'll swing by your place tomorrow after I recover from this." The next morning, Bob woke up to the sun streaming through his window and a slight throbbing in his temples, a reminder of the punch-induced fun from the night before. He sat up in bed, his eyes landing on the discarded Barbie costume strewn across the floor. A wave of memories hit him. The laughs, the compliments, the feeling of belonging. It had been a transformative night, to say the least. His phone buzzed on the bedside table, snapping him out of his reverie. It was a text from Mike. "Hey, Barbie, hope you're feeling all right this morning. Don't forget to clean behind your ears. Barbie's always pristine, remember? Bob chuckled, shaking his head. He typed back, "Very funny. I'll have you know I'm recovering quite nicely, thank you very much. And I think I've earned the right to be a little messy today."
Fair enough, Mike replied. But don't get too comfortable. I expect a full debrief of your night as Barbie sometime this week. All the juicy details.
Bob rolled his eyes again, but a warm feeling spread through him. It was nice to have a friend like Mike, someone who pushed him out of his comfort zone and then celebrated his successes with him. Over the next few days, Bob found himself reflecting on the party and his unique experience as Barbie. He'd always considered himself an introvert, content to fade into the background most of the time. But the freedom and confidence he'd felt that night stayed with him, making him question his self-imposed limits. It was during one of these reflective moments, as he lounged on the couch with a cup of coffee, that his phone buzzed with another text from Mike. "Hey, so I've been thinking," Mike typed, "about your whole Barbie experience. You seemed so different that night, like a whole new side of you was unleashed." Bob sat up straighter, intrigued by the unexpected depth of Mike's observation.
"Yeah, I feel the same,"
he admitted. "Like I discovered a part of myself I never knew existed. It's weird."
"Not weird,"
Mike quickly responded.
"Liberating, maybe? Like you finally gave yourself permission to be someone new." "That's exactly it,"
Bob nodded, even though his friend couldn't see him.
"It's like Barbie unleashed a more adventurous, outgoing version of myself."
There was a pause before Mike's next message appeared.
"So, what I'm getting at is,
do you think you could bring that side of yourself out again? Not necessarily the Barbie thing, but that fearless attitude." Bob pondered the question, letting his mind wander back to the party. He'd felt uninhibited, brave, and unapologetically himself, or herself, rather. The thought of recapturing that feeling was enticing. "I don't know," he finally replied. "I mean, it's not like I can put on the costume again and expect the same magic to happen. That night was special because it was unique." "That's not what I'm saying," Mike clarified. "I'm just wondering if you can tap into that fearless mindset, that confidence, without the wig and the pink dress." Bob sat in silence for a moment, considering the challenge. "I guess, maybe. I mean, it's worth a shot. It's a lot easier said than done, you know." "I know," Mike replied. "But think about it. Maybe there are other ways to channel that attitude. Maybe there's a way to bring Barbie back without the costume." Bob smiled at the suggestion, though he wasn't entirely convinced.
"Maybe,"
he said noncommittally.
"I'll give it some thought." "That's all I ask," Mike said. "Now, enough of the deep conversation. How about we grab some lunch later? I know a great burger joint that just opened up." "Burgers sound amazing," Bob agreed, his stomach rumbling in response.
"Let's do it. I'll text you in a bit to finalize the details." As they wrapped up their conversation, Bob's mind continued to linger on their discussion. Could he, in fact, tap into that fearless attitude without the costume? Was it possible to access that confident version of himself whenever he wanted? The coming weeks became an experiment in just that. Bob found himself seeking out opportunities to embrace his newfound sense of adventure. He signed up for a rock climbing class, even though he had zero experience and heights made him slightly queasy. He joined a local book club, pushing himself to speak up and share his thoughts during their discussions. He even attempted to cook a gourmet meal for himself. Despite his lack of culinary skills, that one didn't go so well, but he earned points for trying. Through it all, he kept in touch with Mike, updating him on his ventures into the unknown. Mike served as a constant source of encouragement, cheering on his friend's endeavors with enthusiasm. One sunny afternoon, as Bob was lounging in the park, enjoying the rare, warm autumn day, he received another text from Mike. "Hey, so I have an idea," Mike typed.
I know you've been trying new things and pushing your boundaries, which is awesome, but I think it's time to take it up a notch. Bob's eyebrows knitted together in curiosity. He had a feeling he knew where this was going, but he played along. A notch, huh? Do tell. Well, you know how Halloween is coming up? Bob couldn't stop himself from chuckling. Yeah, Mike, I'm pretty sure everyone is aware of that. Okay, Mike said, clearly unperturbed by Bob's teasing. Well, I was thinking, what if we throw another party? A proper repeat of last year's bash. A repeat? Bob's heart skipped a beat as his mind immediately flashed back to the previous year's memorable night. Part of him loved the idea of reliving that magical experience, but another part felt hesitant. Could he really top his performance as Barbie? You want me to dress up as Barbie again? He asked, his thumb hovering over the keypad. There was a brief pause before Mike responded. Actually, no. I want you to come up with something even more spectacular. Something that will truly wow everyone. Bob's competitive side immediately kicked in. Oh, really? And what makes you think I can top Barbie? Because I know you, man, Mike said, his confidence evident even through the screen. And I know that when you set your mind to something, you always deliver. So, are you up for the challenge? Bob took a deep breath, knowing that Mike was right. He relished a good challenge, and the idea of creating an even more amazing costume excited him. You're on, he finally replied, a determined smile spreading across his face. But this time, I want you to help me. I need your creative genius to make this work. That, my friend, I can do, Mike agreed. Let the costume war begin. The weeks leading up to Halloween flew by in a whirlwind of costume ideas, shopping trips, and late-night crafting sessions. Bob and Mike immersed themselves in the challenge, determined to create something unforgettable. As Halloween approached, the anticipation and excitement grew. Their group chat was abuzz with speculation and hype, everyone eager to see what Bob and Mike had concocted. The night of the party arrived, and Bob stood in front of the full-length mirror once again, assessing his reflection. He had gone all out. This costume was even more ambitious than Barbie, but it was perfect. He felt a surge of pride and excitement as he checked every detail, making sure it was just right. A knock on the door signaled Mike's arrival. You ready for this? Mike asked, his eyes shining with anticipation. Bob took a deep breath and turned to face his friend. I think so. Let's do this. They arrived at the party venue, a cozy loft space decorated with spooky flair, to the excited chatter of their friends. All eyes turned to them as they stepped through the door, and for a moment, Bob felt a wave of déjà vu. Then, as the guest took in his costume, their eyes widened and mouths fell open in awe. Oh my God! Someone gasped. Is that incredible? Another friend exclaimed, circling him to take in the full effect of the costume. Bob struck a pose, knowing that he had nailed it. That's right, folks! Behold, the one and only Lady Gaga! His costume was a recreation of one of Gaga's iconic looks, a futuristic silver catsuit with towering heels and dramatic makeup to match. He had spent countless hours crafting the outfit, practicing the intense makeup, and mastering the sky-high heels. And it had all paid off. The partygoers erupted in cheers and applause, their phones raised to capture the moment. Bob felt a rush of satisfaction and pride as he took in their stunned expressions. Mike appeared at his side, his own costume, a spot-on impression of Elvis, taking a back seat to Bob's masterpiece. You did it, man, he said, a note of pride in his voice. You absolutely crushed it. Bob grinned, feeling on top of the world.
We did it, he corrected, clapping his friend on the shoulder. This was a team effort, remember? The party unfolded as a blur of dancing, laughter, and compliment after compliment on their costumes. Bob felt energized by the positive reactions, but more than that, he felt grateful for the experience. It wasn't just about the costume, it was about the confidence and courage he had cultivated over the past year. Barbie had taught him that he could be anyone he wanted to be, and that lesson had carried over into his everyday life. As the night drew to a close, Bob and Mike stood on the balcony, taking a breather from the festivities and looking out at the moonlit sky.
You did it, Bob,
Mike said, a note of satisfaction in his voice. You not only topped Barbie, but you also proved to yourself that you can be fearless and confident without her. Bob smiled, a sense of contentment washing over him. You're right, he said, turning to his friend. I didn't need another costume to access that fearless attitude. It was inside me all along. They stayed up late into the night, reflecting on the past year and the impact of Bob's transformative experience as Barbie. It had been a catalyst for change, a nudge that had pushed him to explore new facets of himself and embrace a more adventurous lifestyle. From that night on, Bob carried a piece of Barbie with him wherever he went. Not the wig or the dress, but the courage and freedom she had awakened within him. And whenever he needed a reminder, he knew he could count on Mike to be there, pushing him to new heights and cheering him on every step of the way.
Thanks for watching, my girlies! Be sure to check out Patreon for more!